What do you say, everybody? Welcome to Cover Crimson. We got a lot to talk about today. Alabama picked as one of the favorites in college football. We're going to get into that. Ryan Williams basically throwing the gauntlet out there. These are the comments that Nick Saban hated until he made one. Remember when he said, Vanderbilt, this is the place you don't have fans? And then we lost to them last year. But are they going to get the ant and the sledgehammer treatment? We'll talk about that. And a five-star safety from Maryland that could be going to Bama and was predicted to Auburn for a long time. So, well, that would be a great double whammy if that happened. All that right here on Cover Crimson. Thank you guys for hanging. We're brought to you by Pearl River Resort over in Philadelphia, Mississippi. Let's get this thing going. All right, he's Clint Lamb. I'm Mick Gillespie. Dancing Rabbit Golf Course, the Augusta you can play right there at Pearl River. I know you guys are thinking about golf this time of year, and we invite you to go there. You don't even need a membership. It's the Augusta you can play. All right, let's get right into this, Clint. The FPI rankings have Bama behind Georgia and Texas. I was pretty surprised when you talk about Ohio State and all these other teams that are pretty well positioned in Clemson, but they love Bama. The computers love Bama.
Yeah, so right now, and they do the projected records, the projected win-loss, and it's a lot of predicting. And I guess I'll go ahead and read just for those who don't know what the FBI is, because it is rather confusing. There are elements of it that I don't understand. I just look and see who's up there, and we talk about it. But the Football Power Index is a measure of team strength that is meant to be the best predictor of a team's performance going forward for the rest of the season. FPI represents how many points above or below average a team is. Projected results are based on 20,000 simulations of the rest of the season using FPI, results to date, and the remaining schedule. Ratings and projections update daily. This is one where it's like you get the argument from a lot of people. This is where the SEC biased is built in early. They get this kind of stuff going early with this, and the SEC is viewed differently going into the season, and it affects the strength of schedules. And the bottom line is anybody that watches football at the top, there are very, very competitive teams in the Big Ten. They've won back-to-back national championships, and the way that Ohio State's recruiting, the way that Michigan's recruiting, I would fully expect them to continue to be in the conversation. The way Oregon's been performing, they made the move to the Big Ten. They were competitive. The way they're spending money in this NIL era, the way they're recruiting, the coaching staff that they have, they're going to continue to be competitive. Like, they have competitive teams at the top. But what we start to do is, as you work your way down the conferences, we act like all that is equal as well. And that's really not the case. I mean, anybody, and what will happen is Penn State, one of the best teams in the Big Ten, they go down to Auburn and they completely drum Auburn, and people will say, well, there you go. Well, it's like Auburn is like, I mean, first of all, that was, several years ago, but they were a sub 500 football team.
Yeah.
That, yes, I understand Penn State going down to Jordan-Hare Stadium. Wasn't a night game, if I recall. And it was just the way that everything sets up with the Big Ten versus the SEC. I kind of don't want to dive down this rabbit hole too much because this could be the entire freaking show. But it just, if you watch the competitiveness of those teams, the resources that are spent to try to be competitive further down the list in the SEC is way different than the Big Ten. And so, I mean, top to bottom, it's still the best conference in college football, in my opinion. Has the Big Ten closed the gap? Absolutely. But I think the resources and investment that Texas and Oklahoma invest in their football programs relative to Oregon certainly does UCLA, USC does. But, I mean, it's like, anyways, so Alabama's sitting at number 3. They're sitting behind Georgia and Texas, with Ohio State sitting at number 4, Penn State sitting at number 5, Oregon sitting at number 6. So 3 SEC, 3 Big Ten. To me, this is more, I understand it's not a ranking system per se. Like, this does not mean, Alabama's going to open the season as the number 3 team in the country. But this kind of feels being up in this range, being respected for what you have from a schedule standpoint, what you have from a talent standpoint, a coaching staff standpoint, all these different factors that play into it. I just think Alabama is one of the top national championship contenders in college football entering 2025. Like a lot of these people who have them down at 7 or 8 or 9 or wherever, I think that's too low. I think they're a top 5 team preseason. Granted, if they do what they did last year and they drop games they're not supposed to teams that, on paper aren't very good, then okay, I was wrong. They didn't make any improvement on that front, and they're probably going to ruin their chances of winning a national or at least competing for a national championship this season. But Mick, this feels like a lot of it will depend on Ty, right, or the quarterback in general, regardless of who it ends up being. But this Alabama team is good enough to win a national championship in 2025, and there's little doubt in my mind of that.
I'd love to see it. The Big Ten has a much easier, softer back half of their teams than the SEC, and I think that definitely hurt the SEC last year, being that the back of the league was pretty good. So for Bama, and a lot of people were saying that Bama's schedule this year is not as good as it's been. And I'm gonna throw this up here for you. Like they're saying the back half of the schedule isn't that hard, right? Well, Bama added Florida State and Wisconsin to the non-conference schedule. And I don't know if I agree with that. Like at Missouri, I mean, isn't that going to be tough, right? At South Carolina, this is going to be a better Oklahoma team, and then at Auburn. Like I was kind of surprised by that, with people feeling like Bama's schedule wasn't going to be that tough. And you think South Carolina with a Heisman Trophy contending quarterback is going to be worse than they were last year?
I mean, I have my questions about South Carolina. I have my questions about, Oklahoma or Auburn, but all these teams seem to be trending in the right direction. And that's the thing to me that you kind of have to look at when it comes to Alabama's schedule. Like they're going to have to prove themselves pretty much every step of the way. And a lot of the Big Ten, they'll criticize the late SEC cupcake games. Honestly, with the way a lot of these schedules set up, I mean, if you didn't have that, it would be rough. And a lot of people want the SEC to go to 9 games. I'm fine with it from a product standpoint. I really am. And a lot of people want to make the argument, all Power 4 conferences should have the same number of conference games. That's fine. But, and granted, the SEC in a lot of ways, they do benefit from their quote unquote strength of schedule. I can fully acknowledge that. But you're putting another potential loss on the schedule, and it's already been hard enough. And the SEC's already, what we're doing is we're taking the last couple of years and we're making sweeping assumptions about where the sport of college football is heading as far as the hierarchy is concerned. And we're saying, okay, the last couple of years, we're going to ignore the previous 20. And granted, there's been a lot of changes in the last couple of years. I get that. But the SEC is still competitive from a spending standpoint. They still have top to bottom the best conference. They're investing the most resources top to bottom of any conference in college football. It's just right now, the SEC is a more competitive league, in my opinion. And if you add that game, we already saw everybody beat up on everybody this past season. You had South Carolina was on the outside looking in. Alabama was on the outside looking in. Ole Miss was right there on the outside looking in. It's because they all beat each other. And so it's like you're throwing in another potential game that you could lose when history has shown us. Doesn't matter if the Big Ten is up there. It doesn't matter if they have 9 conference games compared to the SEC. When things go head to head, the SEC has proven that the SEC has better prepared their competitive teams to actually be able to get over the hump and win a national title more consistently. If this is 5 years in and the Big Ten's won 4 of the last 5 or something, it's like, okay, we need to reevaluate the conversation. But a 2-year sample size to me is not nearly enough.
Yeah. Ohio State bought that championship last year. Guys, we're brought to you by Roback. Use our promo code ROOM20 and get 20% off your first order using that email address at Roback. Look at that good Roback gear right there.
This is the first that we're using of this, and it looks phenomenal.
Yeah.
The graphic was very well done. Got to be honest with you. I need something for the fall, late fall. Obviously, it's Alabama. We're not going to be sporting that in September or October, probably, but I'm looking for something that looks a lot like that, to be honest with you, and it looks comfortable as hell.
Yeah, I've got that actual shirt. That's not me in there though, but I
You
do own
sure?
that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You've been working out, man. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I bet it is comfortable. All right, let's talk about Ryan Williams. He's on the John Gruden show and or with John Gruden on a podcast, and he basically was asked about losing to Vanderbilt and said that something to the effect of it's going to be like killing an ant with a sledgehammer. Diego Pavia, the quarterback of Vanderbilt, came back and in his comments basically like they acting like they tough, but they don't want no confrontation. That's lyrics from a song like, hey, we're not really that worried about Alabama. This is why Nick Saban didn't let people talk to the media right here. This is what he hated. And then he did the same thing to us last year. He did. He told everybody Vanderbilt doesn't have a home field advantage. We lost.
Here's the difference. Saying we're going to kill an ant with a sledgehammer is pretty much saying, I mean, we're going to kick the hell out of them.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Saban was speaking a factual thing, which is the only thing. Like, it is not difficult from an atmosphere perspective to go to Nashville and play Vanderbilt, because Alabama had more fans in that stadium than Vanderbilt did. That was so. I mean, he was, granted, was it the right call? Did they take offense to that? Did that add motivation? Yes, but his was not intentionally done. He was speaking honest, and it just so happened that the honesty was something that rubbed people the wrong way. Ryan, we'll find out, but his is more trash talk. Now, here's the thing about Ryan. He's anybody that saw him for the cover, the NCAA cover photo shoot or whatever, he was talking trash to everybody. The only one he didn't talk trash to was Caleb Downs, because Caleb Downs plays defense, and he might actually have to pay for it if he runs his mouth too much, and then they end up seeing Ohio State. Might catch one coming across the middle or something. But he's a guy that likes to pick and have fun. He probably didn't know that it would be taken as seriously as it was, but this is locker room material, Nick. This is not what you want to give an opponent, especially an opponent you lost to, who has a very gritty, likes to feel disrespected quarterback and program right now that's trying to prove something. They proved a lot last year, but now this kind of hit the reset button for them, where it's like, okay, we beat them last year and still nobody's giving us a chance. Still, would Ron Williams be saying this about LSU or about Tennessee? Probably not. He'd probably keep his mouth shut, but because Alabama probably doesn't take Vanderbilt as seriously as these other programs, they're willing to make these type of comments and feel pretty confident about it. I'm not saying that is 100% the truth. I'm saying that is the way that Vanderbilt's going to try to spin it. So they're right back to feeling like the underdog, which was always going to happen anyways, but this is just kind of fuel for the fire.
Do you think it helps the team because there's teams that thrive off of this? I'm a Ravens fan, and the Ravens are infamous for smack talking and backing it up. When you go this route, and he is one of the best players on the team, you got to go out there and perform. You got to make things happen, and Vanderbilt is going to be undermatched talent-wise, but their heart was stronger than Alabama's last year. Their will was stronger than Alabama's last year. We couldn't stop the run. They made a bunch of third down plays. They got some lucky breaks, but you earn luck in football. The interception for a touchdown that we threw, like the not being prepared to go out there and be physical. This was one of the most disappointing game plans that I can remember too. There's so many different things about this game, including Kalen DeBoer dressed like he was, like just going to hang out on the sideline. Like a lot of people have talked about it. I've had a lot of people talk to me about Kalen DeBoer's look in that game and maybe being a little more professional looking on the sideline. When you lose, people bring that up. But I mean, Shanks even talked to me about it before. His drip, he needs to work on his drip. But it all seemed to come out after that loss to Vandy. And they can beat you. I mean, look, they've beaten Auburn a couple of times. This guy's tough. It's the new day option. Bama's going to have to be prepared for it. I'm wondering what Kane Womack's going to do in the offseason. Sometimes, though, when you talk smack like this, you have to deliver, because now you got to back it up, and maybe that's what's going to happen for Alabama.
Let me check something. So, yeah, Kirby Smart in Georgia lost to Vanderbilt in 2016, Kirby's first season. It was a big deal. It was a huge talking point. That Vanderbilt team was actually pretty good as well. But the next season, they went to Vanderbilt and they won 45-14. So it's like, that doesn't mean Alabama's going to beat them the same way. But Vanderbilt's not catching Alabama off guard again. I'll tell you that. The whole not taking this seriously, there's going to be a little bit of energy that week because, guys, Alabama, and this is, you're taking a shot at Vanderbilt when you say stuff like this, and that's not my intent. I promise you it's not. But this was, even though Vanderbilt was a good football team last year, they went to the brink with Texas. I understand everybody points to the Georgia State. I understand that terrible loss for them, kind of not the equivalent, but I mean, yeah, probably the equivalent of Alabama losing to Vanderbilt. Yeah. But this was an embarrassing loss for Alabama. And they became, in a lot of ways, the laughing stock. And that's really, Vanderbilt is on a completely different playing field than a Louisiana Monroe. But in a lot of ways, to a lot of fans, this felt Louisiana Monroe-esque. And It was embarrassing. And so the people's pride was hurt. So I would fully expect Alabama to come out firing. I think fans will take that game a little bit more seriously, and they'll want a little bit of revenge. And, hey, let's put Vanderbilt back in their place, might be the approach. And yet again, that sounds like a shot, and I guess it is, but that's not, I don't really mean for it to. But Vanderbilt, like last year, Alabama had a lot of youth in the secondary. Mm-hmm. It kind of limited what they could call from a coverage standpoint. They were a little bit predictable as far as third down situations, going man to man. You could exploit that if you were Vanderbilt, and they did a phenomenal job as far as their game plan and exploiting that and putting Alabama defenders in conflict. And then you just had the grittiness, Diego Pavia playing like Johnny Manziel and making magic happen. And so, I mean, it's Alabama's, their youth in the secondary hurt them last year. Their experience in the secondary should help them this year. I know we're talking more about go ahead.
I was just going to ask you this. Do you think Kalen DeBoer is upset about these comments, or do you think, like Saban would have been, or do you think he cares? Like, does this matter to him?
No, yeah, he cares. Yeah, I guarantee you he's like, because it's unnecessary. What did it do for you? It gave us a talking point. Right. And I mean, if you're Vanderbilt, it's kind of good because gave them a talking point too. It put them in the news, but It doesn't do really anything for Alabama. It doesn't do anything for Ryan Williams. We did learn when the whole Jimbo Fisher, Nick Saban spat happened, and they asked Will Anderson about it. I don't remember his exact comment, but he's essentially, we'll talk about it when that time comes.
Yeah, right.
And it was just like, they're going to destroy Texas A&M. Will Anderson did. Will Anderson completely wreaked havoc, despite the fact that he didn't have the sacks and stuff, and a lot of fans didn't feel like he had a great performance. He was actually very disruptive in that game. He lived up to what he said back at SEC Media Days. The problem is just because you're the superstar that's capable of doing that, you got to make sure you're bringing everybody along too. And that's what I think Ryan Williams needs to learn here. You might be extra focused and you've got superstar potential where you can make some jaw-dropping plays and make a huge impact on the game, and you could completely embarrass your aspect of Vanderbilt. Their corners might not be able to cover you. You might go for 200-plus yards, but if the defense really struggles to get Vanderbilt's offense off the field, they can still end up beating you despite you doing your job and you doing your part and you making, you might kill an ant with a sledgehammer, but is the rest of Alabama going to do the same, or your teammates going to do the same? I'm not saying that they won't. I'm saying that that's a lesson that I think Will Anderson had to learn the hard way, because Texas A&M ended up giving Alabama all they wanted. It was a dog fight, and it went all the way down to the wire. So that's just an element or an aspect of this that I think Ryan Williams needs to learn from, and probably will. But yes, Kalen DeBoer absolutely cares because it's unnecessary. It did nothing for you from a positive standpoint, and it could certainly provide something that can hurt you.
Yeah, no doubt. It's interesting. See what happens. I mean, our way's always been act like you've been there before, but it doesn't mean that it's always the right way. Whatever gets these guys motivated, and if talking does, then that's great. But if it doesn't, and if you lose,
back it up.
Hey, you lose, you're going to hear about this one for a long time. So Guys, we're brought to you by Pearl River Resort, Philadelphia, Mississippi. They've got the Timeout Sports Lounge and the Goldman Casino. That's a Vegas-style sports book, and you don't have to go all the way out to Las Vegas to go. And, the Belmont Stakes is coming up on Saturday. You know, I'll be ready for that. This is the one I'm going to win. I mean, I won the last one, but it was the favorite. I need an upset to happen. And as they get the field ready. But you can do horse racing. You can do football during college football season, NFL, NBA, you know, any kind of sport internationally too. They have them all there. They have the kiosks, they have the table, and then they have personal kiosks. So you can go over and make your wagers and watch games and have your own sound and like your own little area. So take advantage of that over at Pearl River. Hour and a half from Tuscaloosa, 2 hours and change from Birmingham. All right. Well, Clint, this one's been interesting. Now say this guy's name's right. Is it Jira Edwards? Jira, yeah.
I'm saying Jira, and I could be wrong on that.
Yeah,
but.
Jira Edwards from Upper Marlboro. I know that area suburb of DC. 4-star, 5-star, depending on what service you look at. But he's the number 2 safety in the country. This guy's been predicted to go to Auburn for a long time. And he said he's called Auburn his leader. Oregon, Ohio State, Georgia in there as well. But all of a sudden, here comes Bama.
And I don't know. I mean, Adam Gorney, and granted, I saw this in a tweet. So maybe someone's like, yeah, that didn't happen. That's wrong. That's somebody making up stuff. But I want to say it was at least from one of those Alabama Twitter accounts that share accurate information. They go and just take a ton of their content from places and just throw it on there. Mm-hmm. I think it was one of those. So, I mean, Adam Gorney predicting him to Alabama. He's supposed to be visiting this weekend. Alabama brought in 5-star safety Jet Washington this past weekend. And I was just looking at both of these guys. And once again, the length, the talent, like Edwards is 6'2", 205 pounds. He's a physical downhill hitter. He loves violence, good in coverage, has quality length, versatile chess piece. You can play him in the slot. You can play him at safety. You can play him as a box defender. Really, really like his game. And he's a 5-star according to the On3 industry rankings, a top 20 player and the number 2 safety. But On3 specifically, they have him a little bit lower as a 4-star, ranked number 87 overall and the number 6 safety. But this guy is just another dude that you love, and he brings a versatile element to his game. You look at Jet Washington, who's 6'5", 200 pounds. I mean, even more length. 6'5", if he's a true 6'5", he's taller than Dijon Lee at 6'4". So, and I think Dijon actually might be listed at 6'3" on Alabama's roster. I don't know how true that is. I feel like he's every bit of 6'4", but he's another one that's like a 5-star prospect, number 27 overall. But then On3 specifically, they have him as a 4-star, number 50. So they have him higher rated than Edwards, but they're a little bit lower on him compared to the consensus. But he's physical and he's versatile, 1 high, 2 high, can play in the slot, can play in the box, has tons of range, a lot of range for a guy his size. And I think he's somewhere between 200 and 210 pounds. So he's a big body player, crazy length and range, good deep speed. And, as far as the man-to-man matchups that you would want, if you're playing against big slots, if you're playing against athletic tight ends, whether it's inline or flexed, he can match up against those types of players. He's a little bit of a unicorn. Got a little Dijon Lee in him from that sense. When I look at how Alabama has recruited defensive back, you've got Jordan Edmonds, a 5-star corner currently committed. You've got Zion Gibson, a 4-star top, 75 player in the country.
Yeah.
Last year, you got Dijon Lee. You got Ivan Taylor. You got Chuck McDonald. You brought in Cam Calhoun, who was a potential 2 to 3, maybe even 3-year guy. The year before, you bring in Zay Mincy, you bring in Zabian Brown, both 5-stars. Red Morgan, Drake Kirkpatrick seems to be trending in the right direction. It seems like he's going to make an impact. Not everybody's super long. Drake Kirkpatrick is severely undersized at 5'10" for a Husky, but really across the board. Like, can you imagine a potential secondary in the future that's got a guy like Jet Washington, a guy like Dijon Lee, a guy like Zay Mincy? The amount of length is just would be absurd. They have a type. They're willing to step out of that box if the skill set's there and they see something specific that they can use, but they covet length and versatility in the secondary, and they keep stacking guys who have that. Now, they haven't secured Washington. They're in really good shape. Oregon's certainly pressing. Ohio State's going to get a visit. USC is going to get a visit. But Alabama seems to be in really good shape there. And they also, I mean, Edwards is a guy who's being pursued by a lot of your top profile, your high profile schools. We'll see how it goes on the visit. If that prediction is true and he commits to Alabama, it's same thing. I love what they're doing as far as their secondary recruiting. Give Mo Linguist a ton of credit for the job he's been doing out on the recruiting trail.
Yeah, he's one of 2 5-stars that'll be in Tuscaloosa this weekend. Xavier Griffin, linebacker, has Alabama as a finalist. He'll be there. You got Caden Prothrow, great Alabama name, by the way, 4th-star athlete. He's got Bama as a finalist. 4-star running back Derek Cooper, another guy that has Alabama as a finalist. Jaquez Wilkes. We've talked about him a lot. I mean, there's just a bunch of guys. Kamari Brooks, who has Alabama as a finalist, big edge guy that Alabama would love to get. A couple of guys that are committed to other programs. Corey Barber, wide receiver, 3-star, has Ole Miss committed there, but he's coming to Tuscaloosa. Darrell Bell III, another safety, a 3-star, committed to Florida State, but coming to town. And there's more guys, but they'll be in town in Tuscaloosa this weekend.
Xavier Griffin's another one, man. 5-star linebacker, has been predicted to Alabama. Alabama can, I think they're already in really good shape. If they can close on this kid, was watching him as well. 6'3", probably 205, 210 pounds. To me, just can play on the ball, can play off the ball. I've compared that versatility and just kind of how he's trending as a high school recruit to Jihad Campbell, because a lot of people forget Campbell was in that same range and size. He was a lengthy guy who was a little bit light, a little bit lean, but you knew he had the frame to eventually carry a lot more weight, and he got all the way up to 244 pounds. Right now, the Philadelphia Eagles, they're talking about him starting off as an off-ball linebacker, but their defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio, he has been pushing a lot, talking about potential edge. And I think they really want to utilize his versatility, move him around. Maybe he's not Micah Parsons, but maybe he sees some Micah Parsons where it's like, well, how Micah was used, especially early in his career for the Dallas Cowboys, moving him around, playing off ball and on the ball. Maybe they're looking to do something like that. But a guy like Xavier Griffin, he's got a lot of those abilities. He's got that length. He can be a dynamic pass rusher for you. And what I do is, we talk about the versatility and the flexibility as far as the secondary and the length and the different body types and moving guys around and creating matchups that you like. I think Kane Womack's wanting to do that at every level. They love the versatility along the defensive line, the guys who can play inside and out, the guys who can play on the ball and off the ball, like Justin Hill. I've talked a lot about him. He's going to primarily be an edge rusher who I think can be a true off-ball linebacker in certain situations. A guy like Xavier Griffin, he can kind of be the reverse of that. And can you imagine if you've got one who can, one guy playing edge who can do both, you've got a guy playing off-ball who can do both, and you're just constantly moving them around, doing different things. Offensive lines don't know who's coming, they don't know who's dropping, but you don't have liabilities. Like if you drop a defensive tackle because you bring pressure elsewhere, then that defensive tackle dropping, I mean, it's just you might catch a quarterback off guard and he's doing some stuff underneath. It's like it could be beneficial, but it can also be limiting when you've got guys who can drop with confidence and you can do stereotypical off-ball linebacker stuff. And you got guys who can rush the quarterback at an elite level, and you've got them playing different positions and you're moving them around. You can have a lot of fun defensively. And so it's a great group. Don't want to take away anything from those other guys, but I love Xavier Griffin.
Interested to see who Alabama adds. They've got a super elite class, but only 5 players committed right now. So it seems like they're really targeting these upper end guys and maybe going for quality over quantity. But I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of late movement just because of the money that's involved in, maybe getting the 3-star guy. The 5-star guy is probably going to get the bulk of it, the 4-star guy. I mean, that's kind of how it feels to me, but I mean, who knows? Everything's changed, man.
Last year, it seemed like Alabama went on a run, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Where it was like a bunch of guys popped right there at once, and then it got quiet again. Like it was quiet before that, it was quiet after it, but they kind of got a bulk of their guys in like what felt like a pretty short period.
Yeah.
You're seeing guys commit every day. Georgia, Justice Fitzpatrick, who is Minka's brother, he committed to Georgia yesterday. Not surprising. Minka obviously played for Kirby, and Nick Saban's no longer around. But I also think, how high was Justice compared to some of the defensive backs that Alabama's recruiting? I understand the name's certainly there,
Yeah.
but was he a fit? Like, and I'm not saying they didn't want him. I'm just saying, was he a priority compared to
Yeah.
others? I'm not worried about the recruiting. I'm telling you, this stuff's going to start to pop off soon. And I feel like in 2 weeks, we're going to be talking about, not 2 weeks necessarily. I mean, it could be a month, but I
Whatever.
feel like
You just said it's gonna
by
happen.
the end of June, we're going to be saying they're in really good shape. They have closed on a lot of these guys, and maybe there's some that shock you, and they're highly rated players who are predicted to go to Alabama right now. It doesn't work out that way. They end up elsewhere, but I don't think Alabama's staff is panicking. And so until they're panicking, I'm going to play it cool as well, because I see where they're at, but I also see where they're going to be, and I feel pretty good about where that's going to be.
Guys, a couple things I want to remind you of. Rowback Room 20 with Father's Day coming up, and another great deal we got for you, newlifeart.com. That's those Daniel Moore prints, Crimson, buy one, get half off on anything in there. Take advantage of it with our promo code Crimson. And also, Clint, you love talking about this. You can find our shows on Spotify, Apple, anywhere you get podcasts.
Yep. Apple Podcast, Spotify. If you like to just listen, even if you don't like to just listen, please go to wherever you listen to podcasts, wherever you can listen to podcasts, follow us, download, leave us a 5-star review if you like the content. We are really trying to get that side of it going. And if that's building as it can, it already is. I mean, it's already growing each and every day, and we very much appreciate everybody who's already done that. But for those who haven't, the more we grow over there, the more we're going to grow overall, and it's really going to help as far as what we're trying to do. And I'm telling you, we're not asking that you leave a bunch of money as far as super chats and all that stuff. All that helps as well. But just going to download or going to follow the podcast would do wonders for us as far as helping our growth and being able to achieve giving you guys a product that I think you're going to be very proud of come the fall. So definitely get on over there. It's the Cover Crimson Podcast Network. It's not just Cover Crimson. Search the entire thing to make sure you're getting the right spot. We very much would appreciate it.
All right. And then covercrimson.com. What do you got cooking over there these days?
Yeah, back-to-back days of releasing player rankings. Yesterday, good conversation surrounding that with Stacy and LA Farms and some other people. Dropped another one this morning. It's not just ranking the players. I'm going kind of in depth, and I tell you what that player's about. Give a little bit of a scouting report, where they fit in this year, how I feel about them long term, who do they have standing in their way. We talk about all of it to where you get. I feel like that at the end of these rankings, you will have a good feel for every single player on Alabama's roster who was there in the spring. Now, the guys who are enrolling in the summer, we've talked extensively about them too, but just they won't be involved in these rankings. I think there's like 4 or 5 of them, because we also include Brody Dalton and Jack Samarco and the transfers that we have seen on the college level. Those are being included on the rankings, but you will have a really good feel for where Alabama's roster is at, the players who are on it, and you'll kind of be very informed heading into the season. So definitely go sign up if you haven't already, and hop in on those conversations. We're having a great time with it.
Yeah, no doubt, guys. And we appreciate you for being a part of everything we do here as well. And that includes our partners at Pearl River Resort. They put the channel on every day. Dancing Rabbit, it's the Augusta you can play, the Azaleas, the Oaks, two really masters level golf courses, $1 million facilities, and you don't have to have a membership to play. Hour and a half from Tuscaloosa, 2 and change from Birmingham. Philip M. Steakhouse, and go there, hit the golf ball around, get the chowder, get you a steak. We did that last week. It was just fantastic. The sports book, Jake Coker and I hung out in there for a while, and met some of you guys there. We appreciate all of you that swung by to say hi to us. But whether you got a poker club, whether you got a bachelor party, whether you just want a guys' weekend out or girls' weekend away, all that is perfectly close at Pearl River Resort. Hour and a half from Tuscaloosa, 2 hours and change from Birmingham. But they got a great concert series this summer, a water park, the spa, all that stuff at Pearl River Resort. All right, we'll do it again tomorrow. Roll Tide, everybody.
Escape to Pearl River Resort.